So another big topic this month, we have the what's going on in the fishing industry. The NOAA came out with a new update on the Carlos Rafael update, and they filed more charges. And it was 22 captains, and they were looking at revoking 17 of their licenses to fish. And the civil penalties went from $1 million to $3 million. What's your take on that? Is that going to really hamper those licenses staying in the city, or are they going to go outside the city?
Well, it still remains to be seen. So that everybody's clear on what happened, NOAA issued what in effect is a superseding complaint. In other words, they had an initial set of charges that was, they filed several months ago. And those are the ones that you noted that included $1 million fine. And now in the same case, they've brought more charges. These are still allegations. These are not final decisions. And the point that I'll continue to press is that, yeah, I think everybody understands that Carlos Rafael should be sanctioned seriously because he deserves it. But the government shouldn't sweep into its dragnet hardworking fishing captains that are out there doing America's most dangerous profession to feed their families just because they were following orders from this one particular crook, Carlos Rafael. So. So I've argued to NOAA, I've argued to anybody, to our federal delegation, I've argued to everybody that there has to be some measure of restraint. As you know, I was a federal prosecutor for a number of years. I prosecuted a number of corporate executives. And in every one of those cases, you could sweep others into the dragnet. There's always somebody else who is involved, but you have to have some sense of proportionality. And you really have to focus your efforts on the real culprit. As far as the port goes, it's concerning to me that there's a possibility that permits might be revoked. But again, the government should take serious consideration of the fact that by bringing one guy down, they can also harm a lot of others. So it's not just the captains, it's also the shoreside businesses, the settlement houses, the ice houses, the fuel companies, and others that rely on Carlos's business who might find themselves pinched because the government's overreached. So I have been, as you know, I've been out front on this, making the case for the port. At the end of the day, and I'll continue to do that, and at the end of the day, what we want is just to make sure that there are as many boats running as possible. We want as much of those permits that remain here. We want the landings to remain as high as they are because they support the livelihood of lots of folks here in the city.
So John Bullard, he used to be the mayor of New Bedford. He was at NOAA. He's not there anymore. But he says, there's 88 charges on these 20 so captains. So he's saying it's more than just Carlos Rafael. But I think what you're saying is we have to wait and see what's going to happen with actually any kind of federal prosecution on this.
Yeah, so just so people understand, the government does enforcement both through the Department of Justice and enforcing federal criminal law, and then all the federal agencies have what's called civil enforcement authority. And under that authority, generally, they can impose fines, they can revoke licenses to do business, and that's what NOAA is operating under right now. They have the authority to impose fines against people who've been issued permits or licenses under their regulations. And so, this isn't a criminal case now. The criminal case with Carlos is done. He's in jail right now. We're really focusing on the civil enforcement action. And what we have at this point is just an allegation about what he did and what others did and some proposed penalties. And, my expectation is that in the next several months, we'll start to see things sorted out, maybe by the end of the year, maybe a little bit after it based on my conversations. The goal here, again, is, don't sweep all these other captains into the dragnet. If they need a slap on the wrist is appropriate, then so be it. But they need to continue to fish because the boats they're on are worth less if they're not manned by experienced captains. You can't just walk up to the docks and become a successful commercial fishing captain. It takes years of experience to to get good at it. And the people who are named in this indictment are all experienced captains. So, that has value to the port. And we also want to keep the permits here. So we're working on, I know they're working on the sale of the boats and the permits to others in the port of New Bedford so that the landings remain here.